Hi there. Today we're going to talk about how to document your deployment and administration process for a software project. Doing this is going to save you substantial amounts of developer time, for one thing in onboarding new developers, as well as their time in troubleshooting problems. Also, problems should be less likely because making sure that everyone follows the same procedures will reduce the chances of errors and oversights in the first place. I'm going to be using our template that we use for this document to go through what to include. And I'll also be sharing this template so that you can access it and use it in your own business. So stay tuned for that. So let's go ahead and dive in. I'm going to share my screen. So first off, we are going to list all environments that we have and the top level application directories for each environment. So here's an example of what that would look like. So very simple, we list our production, test, and development environment, and we list our front end and back end top level directories for each environment. Moving on, you're going to want to provide deployment instructions. So how exactly do we deploy changes to each of the environments that we just listed? And if a build fails, how do we restore the previous build if necessary? So these instructions are going to vary a lot project by project, but even if they involve an automated process, so for example, if an automated process kicks off when changes are merged into your test branch or your master branch and it kicks off a build, you're going to want to describe that, provide links where applicable so that people can understand how it works. But if there's any manual steps, for sure, you want to list them here and be as explicit as possible. Give actual commands, give screenshots if applicable, whatever it takes so that any developer can understand what needs to happen here. Then third, you're going to want to talk about how to set up a new development environment step by step. Again, clarity here is king. So this is also going to vary tremendously project by project. So I won't show an example, but things to include would be what repos does the new developer need to check out? What do they need to install? And what version do they need to install? What commands do they need to run? What do they need to add to their host file? How do they seed their database? How do they serve up their front end application? All those things and more, you're going to want to go into crystal clear detail here. A good way to test whether this section is effective or not is to have a new developer use the instructions, take a note of what wasn't included that should have been. So where did the instructions fail, basically, and then go back to the developer that wrote it and talk about it and revise the instructions accordingly. Then fourth section, the administration section. So you're going to want to have a subsection here that describes updates. So give really clear instructions on any periodic administration tasks here. So how do you renew your SSL certs? How do you update plugins? For example, if additional fixes are necessary after updating certain plugins, list those here. Anything that's quirky definitely needs to be clear. Then also backups. So describe any processes that are in place for backups. Where are those backups stored? How long are they stored there? And how do you switch over to, for example, backup database when you need to, for example, if there's been a problem. Then last section is the debugging section. So here's where developers are going to save each other a lot of time by documenting these things. So logs, provide the location of relevant log files and briefly describe what those log files contain. For example, on our projects, a lot of times we have a Laravel log file and we have worker log files, for any errors related to what the workers are doing. Provide test user accounts. So if there are test user accounts that people tend to use over and over again, list those here and say how you use them. For example, you probably have a test user account for each different type of user on your system. We talk about detailing those in the project overview video that I'll link to at the end. But here you want to, specify the exact username, where to find the password, and what to use those accounts for. Then finally, tips. So include any other useful information here. And this section may get so detailed that you want to link to a separate developer cheat sheet file, and that's fine. But if not here, then you want to talk about things like how do you dispatch jobs manually, if that's applicable? How do you check the status of jobs? And how do you resolve common problems for this project? Things that come up again and again. Here, you may also want to describe general approaches in the code, things that may not be immediately obvious, but would be really helpful to know. So please like and subscribe to this video if this was helpful information to you. We're in the midst of doing a series where we are going through a bunch of these different documents that are incredibly valuable to have, and we talk about what elements to include in each one. So stay tuned for more in this series. And right now I'm going to show the link where you can sign up to get our template for how to document your deployment administration processes. And thanks so much for tuning in.